Welcome into New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. And today's show, we're going to touch on Kadarius Toney and him not being at the Giants' very first offseason workout. And Daniel Jeremiah, he put an idea out there that the Giants could trade down from pick number 5 and get the Saints 2 picks that they picked up in the trade that just happened yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll touch on all that. But first, we got to touch on Kadarius Toney and him not being at the first workout. It is a voluntary workout, which means you don't have to go. But I think when you got a new staff, you got a new head coach in Brian Daboll, you got a new GM in Joe Schoen, I think you got to be there. When there's a new staff in place, it's the first day of school. You should be there on your best behavior and trying to make the best first impression you possibly can. But here we go again. Last year, after Kadarius Toney was drafted, it took a while for him to sign that contract, and he wasn't at last year's first voluntary offseason workout. So it's an ongoing theme for Kadarius Toney. And it's just something that continues to add up onto the long laundry list of things, the small things. It's not anything big, nothing criminal, nothing off the field that makes me want to cut the guy. But the little things are adding up, kind of like Odell Beckham. The little things kept adding up, and then the iceberg finally tipped over at the top because it was just too much little things, and he started to become a problem for the New York Giants. And I don't want to see Kadarius Toney go down that trail. Hopefully, Brian Daboll gets him on the phone and says, bro, you got to be here ASAP, and that happens. But first, I want to know where all you Giants fans stand on this. As Giant fans, we're proud, and we're vocal, and we feel very strong about our opinions. So I want to know what you have to say about this one. How do you feel about Toney skipping off-season workouts? Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Should he have been there? I know it's voluntary, but at the end of the day, voluntary is open for interpretation. So get in the comments and sound off for me. And make sure while you're down there, go down and hit that big red button, especially if this is your first time watching a New York Giants Now video. We're trying to get to 8,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, which is less than a month away. We got about 960 to go, but we've gained almost 900 subs in the last 28 days. So this is very doable, and our draft coverage is only going to get hotter and hotter as we get closer to the first day of the NFL draft. So go down right now and hit that big red button for free daily videos on the latest Giants news and rumors. In the NFL, especially when you think about it like this, the not-for-long league, if you're not all in, you're on your way out. And I'm not saying that's where Kadarius Toney is, but he doesn't strike me as a guy that's all in and loves football. He may love playing football, but does he love being a national football player, a professional football player, something that is a 365 days of the year job, 24/7. You need to be all in. This doesn't strike me as a guy that's hanging out at the offices, at the off-season buildings, during the off-season, getting workouts in, hanging out with teammates. We haven't seen that. And being picked in the first round isn't a scholarship for Kadarius Toney. Scholarship athletes, they get special treatment when they get onto campus. They don't have to work as hard, especially if you're a 5-star guy. And that's not the way it works in the NFL. If you're a first-round pick, you still have to prove it and go out and earn your keep. If you go into year 2 and you have another lackluster year like you did in year 1, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, who didn't draft you, may be looking to move on from you. It is that simple. I mean, last year, there were rumors mid-season that Giants could look to move on from Kadarius Toney for all the little things that added up. From the injuries, to not being invested, to not being all the way in on meetings. This is someone that has all the talent in the world. I mean, I'm still in on Kadarius Toney. From the Cowboys game alone last year, when he put up almost 200 receiving yards with Mike Glennon, yeah, that guy, throwing him the football, had his best game of his career. We saw the talent. We saw the ability. We saw that he could be a joystick when he has the ball in his hands, and he's hard to bring down. But it takes more than just being a great football player to succeed in the NFL. You got to have it in between the years. And I'm not saying Kadarius Toney doesn't, but he hasn't shown us that he does. Maybe he just does it behind scenes. Maybe he had a good reason. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's just not a good look, in my opinion, to miss the first day of voluntary offseason workouts when you have a new coach and a new GM that you should be selling yourself to, so down the line you can get a big contract when your rookie deal is up. Brian Daboll, as you know, he was asked about Kadarius Toney, and this is what he had to say. He didn't touch on him specifically. He was asked about him, and he said this: with every player, it's a clean slate. There's a lot of information right now to consume for these players playbook-wise. So each person's going to be responsible for making sure they are on top of the information. With a new staff, we're allowed to start 2 weeks early for a reason. You better not look lost out there when it's no longer voluntary to attend. And that last line, I think it sums it up everything that he has to say about Kadarius Toney. He doesn't have a problem necessarily with him not being there because it's voluntary, but he pretty much said it. You better not F it up when you come and it's not voluntary and you don't know the playbook, because you will be looking on the outside in and trying to get playing time for the New York Giants. What he did in his rookie season, he had some big games. Against the Dallas Cowboys, 10 grabs, 189 yards. Against the Tampa Bay Bucks, he had 7 grabs for 40 yards, and other games he also played well. I mean, against the Saints, he had 6 grabs for 78 yards. This is someone that is electric with the ball in his hands. He forced some of the most missed tackles in the NFL in just 10 games, where he had 39 grabs for 420 yards and no touchdowns. That has to be better, and I think it will be better in the Brian Daboll offense, but at this point, I think it falls more so on the shoulders of Toney than it does anybody else. He has to show the fans and to himself that he wants to be a great football player for the New York Football Giants. I think this is kind of a crazy question, but I saw it on Twitter, and Jeremy Fowler a couple of months ago, he talked about Kadarius Toney could be a sleeper offseason trade candidate. So what do you think the Giants should do with him? Should they trade him? If you think so, you can go down and type T for trade. I think it's way too soon for that. The money doesn't even make sense if you trade him. Or do you think they should keep him? You can go down and type K for keep. Story number 2, and this one comes from Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network. Should the Giants trade back in round 1 with the New Orleans Saints? I think there's a lot of thoughts that goes into that, and I'll give you those throughout the video. But I think it's important to know that the Giants, they would be giving up pick number 5 in this situation, according to Daniel Jeremiah. This is what he said on Twitter. According to the trade chart, the Saints have enough points to swap 16 and 19 to move up to the 5th pick if they want to jump Carolina for a QB. And that's what they would have to do, because it sounds like Carolina is in on a quarterback, but they're not all the way in on a quarterback. There's also rumors that they could look to draft an offensive tackle. But if the Saints have their guy, whether it be Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, they need to go up and get him. And the Giants may be a sweet spot to do that. This is what that trade would look like. The Giants, they would receive pick 16 and 19, so they would have 7, 16, and 19, 3 picks in the first round, and then they would give up pick number 5, which would go to the New Orleans Saints. I want to know what you guys have to say about this one. If you were Joe Schoen, would you make this trade? I think there's a lot of things that go into that. I'll give you my answer in a second, but go down in the comments and be active for me. Would you make this trade? Swapping pick number 5 for pick number 16 and 19. Go down and type A for accept, or you can go down and type D for decline. When I think about it, I would pass on this trade. It's for a couple of reasons. Reason number 1, the Giants, they would have to create even more cap space. I know we talk about that on the show a lot. But if you've paid attention, Joe Schoen is all about having flexibility. And when you have 3 first-round picks, that's more cap space you got to pay players. Step number 2, you want to have the ammunition next year to make a trade, being maybe a future first-round pick you pick up in this year's draft in a trade-down situation. I like getting 16 and 19, but I almost would rather prefer 16 and a future first next year from another team. I know the Saints don't have that pick anymore, but maybe another team like the Pittsburgh Steelers that may be looking to come up and get their quarterback. Joe Schoen said this, and I think all Giants fans should keep this in the back of their minds when they think about the moves that the Giants are making now, tomorrow, and next year. He said this, I think you can truly build a roster where you can compete for today and build for tomorrow. What does that tell me? Trading down for the Giants only makes sense if you get a future first-round pick. Whereas maybe you trade down from 7 and you go back to where the Steelers pick and you pick up their first-rounder the next year. So you still have 2 first-rounders this year, but you also have 2 first-rounders next year, where if Daniel Jones doesn't bounce back from the neck injury, doesn't play like the franchise quarterback you selected him to be coming out of Duke, that way you have the ammunition and 2 future first-round picks to go up and get a guy like Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or whoever the quarterback is that Joe Schoen wants next year if Daniel Jones does not succeed this year and prove that he can be a franchise quarterback. But what say you? If you were Joe Schoen and you were in the Giants draft room, would you trade down in round 1 to get a future first-round pick? I would. I think that's the best way for the Giants to operate. You still get 2 firsts this year, and then you get 2 firsts next year. I would be happy getting 2 first-round picks every single year. But weigh in for me. You can go down and type Y for yes or type N for no. I appreciate everyone that's made Giants now a part of their day today. I thank you. We are nothing without you guys and all of the 7,040 subscribers that have gone down and hit that big red button. But look, we're trying to grow. We're trying to make this channel the biggest Giants YouTube channel out there. So help us get to 8,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. We're going to be live for picks number 5 and picks number 7. You're not going to want to miss it. So go down right now and hit that big red button.